Europe, they always, in Europe, they always had an heirloom,
All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Kuf Chaf. Kuf Chaf. 120.
We're at the cusp.
At the cusp, at the end. So yesterday we left off. We were discussing. We had an opinion at the end. If I can find it. So there was a machlokes. We had two Yavamas. They came back. They said their husbands died, and they went ahead and they married the other two brothers, Levi and Yehuda. And Levi and Yehuda died. So the Rabbanan said they still got a problem, right? They still got a problem because each one might have the Zika from the other brother, because you can't believe her sister-in-law, right, who was married to her potential Yavam. You can't believe her testimony. So, and Rabbi Elazar says, no, since we permitted them and they got married, then now they're mutter. They'll go ahead and marry what they want. We assume that Reuben and Shimon actually both died. So we wanted to know, what was the svara? Is the svara, according to Rabbi Elazar, that a potential Yavama is believed about her sister-in-law, or is the fact that she wouldn't, trip up herself, and since she got married, so we know that Shimon's wife got remarried, so we know that Shimon definitely died. So 5 lines on the top on Kuf Chaf, second to last word. Tashma, come and listen. Says since they were mutter to Yavam and they got married, therefore now when the Levi and Yehuda both died, so we can say that they went there and able to go ahead and remarry. We don't assume that their husband is still alive. Reuben and Shimon are still alive. So if we say, according to the fact that a woman wouldn't basically ruin herself, that's why it says because they got married to the other brothers, to Levi and Yehuda, that's why the mutter. If you say that a potential co-wife is permitted to go ahead and testify about her ksara, even if she didn't get married also, once you just said it should be good enough. So why'd you have to draw a case? Rather, it must be the reason, according to Rabbi Elazar, since she already acted on it, then she wouldn't go ahead and ruin herself, right, just to take down her sister-in-law or her tzara, her co-wife. Then that's the reason. That was the spell of Rabbi Elazar.
You realize that people do that.
But yeah, sure. And Rabbi Elazar says no. The Divrei, we're soon going to see the Rabbanan Shita. Rabbi Elazar says no. Maybe you can deflect it. The Divrei come a little. Maybe he's saying according to Rabbanan. He says the D according to me tzara meida lechaverta. Right? Maybe he's saying that no. Maybe they would tell the Alpha Gadol Insav Mansivillah. Maybe she's believed according to Rabbi Elazar, right? Eladircho, but according to you guys, Aidulu Miyos the Heichel Insav Mansivillah, right? But shouldn't Dila Makagal Nafsha. But at least you guys admit to me that a woman wouldn't do that herself. She wouldn't cut off her nose, spite her face, right? She wouldn't do that. Rabbanan say no. People are crazy. Rabbanan Tamus Nafshi Implishtim Hudekavda. No, over there, as long as I take them down, I'll go down with them, right? So in other words, I'm willing to go down, right, as long as they take the others down. So therefore, even the Rabbanan would say, no, there is no sorry. Even if she goes ahead and marries Shimon, or Levi or Yehuda, it's all a front to just so that the other one thinks that Shimon is dead, and then she marries somebody else, and all of a sudden she's ruined. Tashma, come and listen. Ha'isha shahacha hi ubayla mediyasiyam.
Why don't we say in that case that the women should both do chalitza?
Which case?
In this case, that we just covered. In other words,
No, they don't. They could, but they could do Yibum also. She testifies her husband is dead. She can go marry one of the brothers. We believe her, so she's allowed to do Yibum.
yeah.
She wanted to do chalitza. She could have chalitza.
Tzara.
What? Over there, she was married to the other brother.
Isn't she saying that the guy is not dead?
Who? We don't know. They're married to brothers. She says my husband's dead, so I can go Yibum. She chose to do Yibum, right? She chose to do Yibum, and then she married a guy, and then that guy dies. That brother dies. So now, do we say, is there a chashash that her first original husband is still alive? So, well, she married. She obviously believes her own testimony. So some say no, maybe she's just that crazy that she's willing to marry the other brother. So the other one thinks that he's dead. And therefore we don't believe. So Tashma, a woman and her husband went out and she says, "Meis bali, my husband died." So Tinase, she can go ahead and remarry, but Tita Ksuba, so take her Ksuba. But Sarasa, but her co-wife, Asura, is usher to go ahead because we don't know that the husband is dead. We have no idea whether her husband's dead. And Rabbi Elazar Aimer, however, Hutra Nami Tzaras. Rabbi Elazar says, no, since she is allowed to go get remarried, we assume the husband's dead, and therefore her co-wife is able to go ahead and marry. So you see, just the psak of the since she's able to go ahead and get married, right? She's believed she's nemenes lagabi hirtzara. The rest says no. Ema hoyel v'hutra v'nises. No, maybe over there means that since we permitted her and she remarried, only if she remarries, then the tzara can now go ahead and also remarry because we assume he's dead. Maybe she went overseas and the guy didn't die. Maybe the guy divorced her. So she's not married anymore. So she comes back and says, oh, he's dead. And my proof is I'm going to go ahead and marry somebody else. So maybe the co-wife could say, wait, she can't go ahead and marry because maybe she's lying to me. Maybe the guy just divorced her and the guy's still alive. Right? So the Gemara says, right, so Gemara says, no. If she went ahead, this woman, right, who claimed her husband died, that she married a Yisrael, then yeah, there is chashash that perhaps she was divorced overseas. Now she's just lying that he died. However, she married a Kohen. So obviously she's a grusha. A grusha is also the Kohen. So therefore she wouldn't marry a Kohen. If she married a Kohen, that's going to be good enough proof to say that indeed he died, and therefore the tzara in that situation will be able to go ahead and get married. Fine. One cannot go ahead and testify unless you actually see the face of the individual with the nose and the face, the forehead, and even if he has different simanim, right, signs upon his body, right, birthmarks or the like, or his clothing, you can't testify. And also you can't go ahead and testify until the soul departs the person. Even though he's dying, dying is not good enough. You have to see him dead. Or even if you see with a mortal wound, or hanging, right? They hanged him, crucified. Or an animal is eating him. You can't testify. Fine. Even if those cases, you can't go ahead and just say he's dying. No, you got to make sure he is dead. Also, only 3 days. Like if you see the body after 3 days, it could be he looks like somebody else. No, not every person. Decompose the same depends, upon the size of the body and the temperature outside. If it was frozen, it was cold, not. So different situations to testify upon the body. Zak the Gemara. Parts of panim or parts of panim v'lepedachas. If it's the forehead and not the face, or the face and not the forehead, until both of them forehead, face with the nose. And Amar Abai, V'teimer Rav Kana, Ma'ikra, what's a pasuk? It says, "Ikarta panayam ansabam." Right, when you recognize their face, you have to see the entire face. It's not the body that you can recognize a corpse. Rather, it's the face. You need to see the face to testify that the person is dead. And Abba Bar Masadavi, Abba Bar Menyume, Havi Maski Bey, right? The Bey Reish Kalusa. So he owed some money, right? So who owed money? 1 second. Was the Rash? Oh, right. So he says. So in this case, so Abba, where was that last place? Right. So Abba Bar Masa, the Havi, right, who was also Abba Bar Menyume, he owed money to the Reish Kalusa, right? Zuze. So Asa Kire Davag Babulise, so he took some wax and I guess he put it in a rag or something, and the wax he changed the appearance of his forehead. Davag Biapuse, Chalab Kamayev the Shkarua, right? So then he walked past him in the shuk and he didn't recognize him, right? So he put a little disguise on put some, changed the appearance of his forehead, and he was not recognizable because he was trying to avoid him to pay his loan. So you see that, you have to recognize the forehead in order to go ahead and pay back. All right. And even though we have simanim, we say you got to go ahead and testify upon the face. Nothing else upon the face. You can't give other simanim. So Gemara says, the name of the simanim lav deraisa. I can tell me simanim is not deraisa. V'ramini yasu kasher. So it says, we know matzu kasher b'kis v'arniki v'tavos. The person has a get written and he leaves it sealed or tied up in his wallet or his purse or tabas or it was sealed in their way. Or shenimtza ben kelev was found amongst his items. Afilus man meruba, even if it's a long time, kasher. We say this get is kasher. The get is good. In other words, we can assume that it was his that was written for her, because based upon the simanim of these articles or these items. So what do you see over here? In other words, does it say his name and her name?
Exactly, because the get has to be handed to from the.
Right, but if it wasn't written to Shema, if it was written for somebody else, then even if you hand a woman that gets, so then it has to be written for the Shema. It has to be written for
Next week.
Service.
Yeah, but that's not Ksubas. Let's get
My bad. We have a couple weeks.
couple months. Yeah. So the Chorah has to be written for her, right, with her in mind, right. So therefore, you find it, right. So we can assume it's his because it was written, it was amongst his items, right. Right. So the Gemara says, but nevertheless, we depend upon the simanim in this case in order to matir a woman, in order to matir deraisa. So you see that the simanim are good enough for a deraisa. Some Rabbi like Kash. Rabbi Eliezer, Ben Avai, Rabban. No, it's Bachlis Rabbi Eliezer and Ben Avai. So the Tanya of Rabbi says, Meidin ala Shuma. One cannot go ahead and testify based on a Shuma, a certain type of wart or birthmark. To testify, it's an individual. Rabbi Eliezer, Ben Avai, Meidin. So my lab, ultimately, the Marsav is Siman Deraisa, Marsav is Siman Derabana. The one who says you can go ahead and testify about a Murdoch says that it's Deraisa. And the other one says Derabana, no, it's Siman only Derabana. So Marava, no. The Kuli Alma, Siman Deraisa. Really, all Simanim, if you testify about something which is unique, is Deraisa. And over there, it was Hacha B'Shurim Matsuya, the Ben Gila Kimifli. Over there, I guess a person born at a certain time has a certain mazel, probably there are certain parts or marks on the body. And therefore, if someone's born at the same time as somebody else, they could have a similar wart or a birthmark or some sort of siman on the body. Right. So one holds that such a birthmark would be common among someone who's born at the same time, and therefore it's not good enough siman. One says no, it's unique even if they're born at the same time, and therefore it's unique, and therefore one could testify about it. Vigadar is of a different version that really, yes, it is. Everybody holds it's deraisa. And the machlokes is whether birthmarks or these markings on the body change or warts change after one dies. The Mar Savar Asuli Shtana, so one holds the Rabban holds that since they change after one dies, so therefore you can't testify about a marking on the body after death. Mar Savar Eino Asuli Shtana, the one holds no, it does not change after death. I mean, some of a different version. Amarava, Tukuli Alma Siman Derabanan. Really, a siman is only Derabanan, a unique sign. Vahacha, so over there, how could they testify about a Shuman? The Shuman, siman muvak, right? It's something which is so unique and clear, right? And even though it's only Derabanan, right, we could be even samech on this on Isser Deraisa, right? Right? So even though, so it really is Derabanan, but since it's such a unique birthmark that no one else would have the same one, right? So therefore, Marsav Simon Muvag, Marsav Lab Simon Muvag. One would hold that it would even work on a deraisa.
That's the reason why they were able to identify people who died at 9/11.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
Because the DNA is a Simon Muvag.
Okay. Fine. L'hach lishna to Amar Rava Simanim deraisa, And according to that, the Rava says Siman is deraisa. Haktani, it says Afal Pi Sheish Simanim V'Gufa V'Kelaf. So what do you mean? If you hold Siman is deraisa, so why does our Mishnah say that you can only testify about the face, you can't testify about the body or his clothing? So Gemara says, no, Gufo de Aruch V'Gutz. Maybe it just means that his body, he was tall or short. The guy was, 5'10". Okay, it's a very common height, right? So therefore, he was short or whatever it was. So that is not a good enough siman. And Kalov. And when it comes to his clothing, the Chayshin L'Shelo, he says, oh, I saw he was wearing a shirt that said, Goldberg in the back. So I said, no, he could have borrowed the shirt, right? He could have borrowed someone's clothing, and therefore you can't testify. I know his pants; those were the pants. Maybe he was borrowing the pants, and therefore you can't test. That's what the Mishnah means. You can't testify about the deceased husband because based on the clothing, because he could have borrowed it. How can you go ahead and return a donkey, right? Based upon the siman of a saddle, you say it could be maybe the saddle's the donkey was borrowed. It was a borrowed saddle, different donkey. So our answer is no. People don't go ahead and I guess saddles, get molded sort of, over time to the donkey itself. So therefore, people don't lend out saddles. They're, they fit. It's like a shoe they even worn for a long time. It sort of fits the donkey. Therefore, people don't lend out saddles. If the saddle has a siman, you can go ahead and return it because you can assume it's not borrowed. So what about the case of the gamma? So kosher b'kisa arna give tabas heichem adrinan. So how do you return that in such a case? So tabas in a ring, right? Chayish tezuvi. People don't give out like a signet ring, something which is used to their signature, because if I lend it out, someone's going to go ahead and sign my name to a loan document or something. So people don't go ahead and kis v'arniki menachish inshi v'mushli. People think that the purse or whatever it is has a certain type of mazel. They don't want to let give away their mazel. So therefore, people typically don't lend out those items. Therefore, if you find the get amongst those items, you could assume that it was not borrowed. Or viboy sema kelav b'chiyuri v'sumki. Maybe over there the simana they were given by in the case of testifying about the body was based on the color of the clothing. So therefore, color of the clothing is not unique enough. I saw the guy. He was murdered outside Lakewood. It must have been his husband because he's wearing black pants and a white shirt. So because your husband wore that, so obviously that would not be a good enough simon. Fine. 2 dots. The afilu ruya maguya. Even if they saw he had a yeah. Yeah. So the afilu ruya maguya. So even if he saw that he was mortally wounded, you cannot testify until after his soul departs. Yeah, fine. So the main so you tell me that if someone has a mortal wound, he's going to live. He has a kasha. A person is not, the body does not become tamei until his soul departs. The afilu meguyat, the afilu gaises. Even somebody has a mortal wound or someone is dying on the thrones of death, right? So Tmuye, so it says he's not tamei until he dies. So Tmuye lo mitame, it only says he's going to tamei, but it's not saying that he's going to live. So you see, he's definitely going to die. He's not tamei yet, right? But he's going to die. So why can't you testify about a man who's mortally wounded that he's going to die? So Rabbi Yoleika. No, it's machlokes between Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and Rabbanan. The tiny with you can go ahead and testify upon a person who's mortally wounded. Even he's mortally wounded, you say, okay, I saw the guy dying and he's dead. They made it out but you can't go ahead and testify about someone on the gallows, right, who's being hanged or crucified, right? Because then perhaps they can go ahead and take him down, right? Perhaps whatever, someone paid a ransom, as he's hanging, so they worked. And Hashem ben Elazar, no, you can't even testify about someone with mortal wounds. You can go ahead and somehow do an emergency surgery, right? And be able to go ahead and save him, right? And that he won't go ahead and die or heat it up or whatever it is, so do some sort of, procedure, whatever, out in the field, triage to save him. Can we establish it like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who says that he can still survive, and our mission is like him? The Sefer says, in our Later on, we're going to see this. Still more Mishnayos coming. This Masechta. Ma'isa b'yaseh b'echash shil shaluhu liyam. There's a Ma'isa, right? With I guess in Asya, where a certain person he fell into the sea. Also b'yadam el raglos. They went down to find him, and all they came up was with his leg, his foot. If the foot that they brought up from the water was above the knee, then we can assume the guy is dead. And he was, right, that he died. He bled to death and he's dead. But if we only see below the knee, just the foot or whatever, we're not sure that he's dead. He could have survived. So what do you see in that case? So that case over there is that this person does not survive a mortal wound, right? Because if the leg, right, was above the knee, that part of the body part we found, we could assume the guy is dead. But I thought you just said you can't assume the guy is dead according to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The Gemara says no. Shani Maya, the mark is mark. I guess it makes it worse. The water allows more for him to bleed out, and therefore the water will cause it. But if it was a regular case, a person's mortally wounded on land, then maybe he was able to survive.
I would think it attracts sharks.
Yeah. I Homer Rabba Bar Barchan Ladidi Chazli Ayitaya the Shakil Safsira the Gaida the Gamle. So he saw one time a guy, some Arab, chopped off the leg of his camel, Lo Afskite Lineraise, and he was in the middle of braying, and all of a sudden the animal wasn't even able to finish that. He died so quickly. So you see that his mortal wound, the one dies immediately.
From a camel?
No, I can't. He chopped off the camel's leg. The camel died immediately, right? It was in the middle of making braying, whatever noise they make, roaring, whatever camels do, right? I don't know, right? So he says in the middle of making, what was that? Yeah. So in the middle of making a noise, and it died immediately. So I'm going to buy, that was a weak camel. Other camels are able to survive, perhaps even survive or live longer. And Rav Omar Besakim Buluvenes Sedibriakol. Rav says, no, if you use something, a mortal wound, let's say with something with a hot knife, so that maybe can sort of close up the wound and therefore not allow a person to bleed out, that one is potentially able to survive. And therefore, that's the reason why Mishnah says that you can't go ahead and testify even about a mortal wound unless you see the person dead. And also we say if an animal is eating him, so I'm Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel, Leishanu el b'makom she'ein nafsha yaitza. Only if it's a place where it's not, a mortal wound, right? His hand or something like that. But b'makom she'nafsha yaitza, right? But if the animal's coming to his chest or his head, whatever it is, or the yaitza may eat it, then he can testify. I'm Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel, shachat b'shnayim or shnayim. If a person, right, a human, both his throat was slit, both his windpipe and his esophagus, right? A majority of both of them, ubarach, and then he gets away. Me'idin, you can testify that he's going to die. You get both of these, you just throat slit, you're done. Eini, the remez, and a person hints, he just got his throat slit. He hints to somebody, give a get to my wife. Right? You're allowed to give it. Now, a dead person cannot instruct someone to give a get. But over here, even though he's going to die, we allow him to go ahead and give a get. And she's a divorced woman. She's not a widow. Right? So the Gemara says, no, yeah. The moment when he told her, even though he was dying, he's still alive. So since he was still alive, technically the get can be given. However, he's not going to survive, and therefore maybe you could testify that he's dead. If that's the case, then if you go ahead and a person accidentally or b'shogeg slits someone else's throat, he should be obligated to go to galus, which is the penalty for killing someone b'shogeg, right? Sort of, accidentally, right? Not complete accident, not an oinus, but accidentally. It's tiny, but we learn in Bryce. It says shachet shnayim arav shanim harei ze eina geila. One who goes ahead and he drops a knife or sword or something, is careless and falls down and slits someone's throat. He does not go to galus because he didn't completely cause the guy's death. The guy who, maybe the guy whose throat was slit sort of, added to it. So ha'itamar la amar Avishya chayshinan shema haruach lavaso. Where maybe the wind, there was an unusual wind that caused him also to die. If it wasn't for that wind, right? It wasn't him. Inami or shema ihu kiruv, or perhaps he was moving around in pain or whatever it was, and he brought the death also upon himself. And my benayu. So what is it? Was an afghan the shakte bebesa the shisha parchis? All right, maybe he goes ahead. If he was in a marble room, his throat was the knife was dropped, the sword was dropped. So therefore, there's no wind there. So therefore, there's no wind there. Then that one would say he's obligated, but him moving around will cause the death. According to that shita, then he would be. Then he would not. He would be potter from galus. Inami or the shakte or maybe shakte him outside, right, or whatever. The sword fell outside. But there was, but he didn't move around at all. So therefore, since he didn't move around at all, according to that opinion, he would be chayav for galus. And according to the other one, since he was outside, it was the wind that caused it, and therefore he would be potter according to that star. All right, we'll stop here. The two dots. Shkoyach, everybody. Tomorrow looks a little.